the state, we need to find a way to adapt and to be able to deliver things more quickly that are more modular and that we can plug solutions together to make bigger things. Because our business environment changes, because technology changes so quickly, we need to not presume that we always know the final answer when we start a project. We've got to have the ability to try some paths and try some technologies that maybe won't work out in the end.
Some of the challenges that we experience in the field are ubiquitous across the board, to whether it's from RJD or all the way up to Pelican Bay.
One of the biggest issues, especially here at the institution, is just the logistic part of it, because not all prisons are alike.
Everybody's experience like getting stuck in the Sally Port, while we have to implement this project.
The challenge, I think, for us is pretty much trying to reach out and find the right people to contact sometimes.
So really when it comes to projects, I think the biggest struggle that everybody has is always going to be communication.
Collaboration, it's hard. It all depends on what institution you work for, because every institution has a different kind of culture.
We have to factor in, at the field level, how do those priorities compete with existing priorities?
Yard's locked down, what can you do? You have to just come back and reprioritize your workload.
Yeah, and it's amazing because we do a tremendous amount of work, but when you sit back and try and write it into a report, the week later you forget it.
And sometimes the institutions could be right next to each other and they're completely different.
It's just tough. You can't plan a day and stick by it if things happen.
What are the milestones that we're trying to meet, and what are some of the problems that we're having in trying to meet them, whether it's from the bottom all the way to the top.
Open communication is, one thing that I think is, really important.
If you don't give people all the information, they'll fill in the blanks.
We're struggling because we're trying to figure out who's in charge, who's leading us, what are the key milestones that we're supposed to be hitting.
If you let me know ahead of time what could happen or what's planned, then that would be great.
And not just what the task is, what we have to do, but what the task is about or what the task is trying to accomplish.
We don't need to be involved in everything, but when there's something that has an impact on us, we should have a seat at the table and be able to participate in the decisions that are being made.
Because oftentimes, being in such a hierarchical type organization, we really expect all those decisions to come from above and be filtered down to us.
If the information is given in such a way that it's more not only centralized but organized, from the top down,
then I think that will help us, like I said, navigate and reprioritize workload.
Now we're working in these groups that cut across organizations. We don't have our managers maybe right there, and so we're making decisions on the fly and expecting that the management team will be okay with the decisions we've made.
Many of us have been really used to a certain structure in the org chart, and that's changed. And because that's changing, it's causing us to become uneasy.
WIFM, what's in it for me? If we're able to explain that to the customers and even to us, because sometimes, I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes I feel like a salesperson.
We're not sure who's supposed to be leading this effort. And until we can really get that fleshed out, we're going to be storming for a while until we get to that norming phase and then hopefully start performing again.
Change represents the unknown. It stimulates a fight or flight within us.
Change is not something that we adapt to because we have to survive. It's not necessarily because we like to do it. We're creatures of habit.
For those that are used to things happening a certain way, they're the ones that are going to have more difficulty with the change.
You get that feeling like, why do we have to change if it's working right now?
But it's how we go about change, and I've seen it in several programs, not just EIS.
And unfortunately, some of that effort and energy that's, I would say, wasted in resisting that change, if we were to harness that energy for embracing it, we probably wouldn't have to waste so much.
So change is not so hard just to accept. It's hard to implement as well.
You make them realize the importance and benefit and the effects, and not just tell them what's going to change.
Because you're looking at these people who have established and have these years of wisdom, people who are mentors in your life, in your work life, and having to tell them that you have a new and better way to do it.
And so I think, especially for us right now, we are going through some big changes because we are trying to change some of the processes that we've been doing for years.
I know my past failures, at times they haunt me and they guide everything I do now.
When you are implementing change, you have to live up to it. And doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a success, but it has to be thoroughly and consistently tried from start to finish.
Bigger changes that we have right now are some of the groups and how they work together. And so those are going to impact us in how we do things. I've found over the last year that I'm very hierarchical. I like things very structured.
We literally told them that the way they had always done it was no longer valid and that we were bringing something new.
I'm having to break away from that. I'm having to learn how to do it different, how to be a lot more agile.
If you're able to sell the product to us and we see it's going to benefit, for the most part, I feel that I speak for most of us, we will try our best to be able to implement it, but you have to sell it to us.
I firmly believe that we live in a culture of immediacy.
Our jobs are to keep those customers happy, working, productive.
We don't really see the bigger picture, and we just kind of react to like how it is by given to us.
You have to tell us why. Don't say, hey, this is the route we're moving in, and this is what's going to happen, and it's just going to happen. But hold on, if it's not broke, why fix it?
And it's really a struggle for my brain sometimes to figure, how do we do that? Is that okay?
But I think it would be helpful for us to, not just communicate, but to participate and participate in the process.
And so even just thinking about that and some of the struggles that I'm going through, if I'm going through that struggle, then I know that some of my staff are going through that struggle as well.
Trust that, there's more to it than this if I didn't get all the information.
You just have to kind of cross that line, take that risk, and see what happens.
And that's really what we need to be focused on is not what is the change of what we're going through, but what is the end result? What is it that we're really trying to get to?
One was getting our executive staff to move from a desktop environment to a laptop environment. We did this for their benefit and for a future service.
Results of change, this recent one was MPS, Managed Print Services. That was a big change to the staff, and we implemented that, and that was kind of like a cutthroat kind of thing.
I think the programs we support are better off. Just the fact that we've come in there with a different support model than they've ever experienced before.
Just about almost a year ago, we moved. We essentially left an office that was spacious, wired, online, and warm. And we came to an office that was none of those.
But once it was explained the value behind it, they've kind of embraced it. We've been on for going on 2 months now, and it seems like our customers really like it, but it took time.
Introduce things and technologies into their environment that they weren't currently using because they just weren't aware of them. VPN. So I remember us being in an office where these people who could totally use VPN didn't know anything about it.
But it was an effort that was done not for space, but for geography, because we valued the experience with our customers face to face, and Dameware just wasn't cutting it anymore.
But the challenge now is, our customers have come to expect a level of support that they should expect. And so our challenge is, we've raised the bar for their expectations as we should have. and to keep, you know, keep going above that bar and giving them the support that they need, no matter what it is.
And so there are going to be times where something is going to happen that is beyond our control, that this is how you have to work it. You have to take a different course.
I mean, everything we do, I treat like a project, and I try and get that, and you know, it's dynamic. I get that in the middle of it, you know, you're going to find out you need to make a 90-degree turn and address everything.
That's probably the most difficult part of working a project, is that you're going to have things happen that are going to be beyond your control. Resources are going to change. You may not have all of the resources that you need, or you may just have to stop altogether.
You have to take the patience to develop your staff and value them and empower them to do things. Once you're able to take the time to do that, you understand that you'll get more longevity out of them. You get things like loyalty out of them, trust. Those things can't be built just by giving orders.
Change takes time, and confidence is earned.
You just have to be patient and, again, you know, believe in what you do, believe in the project, even though sometimes it's, you know, you get to question, like, you know, does this really work? Or you've seen it like crash and burn before, but you have to have that trust that, you know what, let's try this again. Maybe this time it will work.
Leave your ego at the door. Don't work for a legacy. Don't work for a name that will be left at CTF when you promote somewhere else. A legacy is truly the seeds you plant and the harvest you'll never reap.